Hello there, my name's Dan McCabe,
And I'm Charlie Watts.
and we are the Global Engagement Associate Heads in the Faculty of Creative and Cultural Industries here at the University of Portsmouth.
Thank you for joining us today for our series of live talks, which are being hosted to celebrate our One World Festival.
And today's talk is being delivered by Dr. Antonino ADiRaimo, Paula JPegg, and JPegg, and we really hope you enjoy it.
Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Antonino ADiRaimo. I am an associate professor in architecture and also associate head research and innovation. And I'm here today with my colleague JPegg, who is a senior lecturer, an architect expert in landscape, and also a person who holds a significant professional practice. So welcome to our talk, and we are talking about nature and technology in design today, visualizing contemporary ecoscapes, constants of environmental challenges. We are talking by referring to our research, to our teaching practices, and also to our daily work what we do in the Portsmouth School of Architecture, Art and Design.
Thanks, Antonino. So really at Portsmouth, we teach our landscape-led way of dealing with architecture, urban design and environmental design. And really it's based on making big plans, big ambitions, because we're here to train people to deal with the big environmental problems that we've got coming in the next 20, 30, 40 years. And we're doing that through domain knowledge, which is key to everything. You have to understand the systems you're working with, whether they're ecological systems, whether they're economic systems, or most importantly to us, development systems and how those systems match together. Now, there's so much information to work with. They can't be done in a human brain. So we have to use computational tools. And that's what we've been specializing in for the last few years. We've been working with GIS, we've been working with artificial intelligence, all the way through to final finished designs. So we deal with information systems and natural systems with the same weighting, but it's really important that we deal with coastal edges because we're here in Portsmouth. And of course, that's where the biggest challenges are, the coastal edge, the littoral edge. And of course, this is Portsmouth. On the far horizon there, you can see the Spinnaker Tower. So we literally live amongst a Ramsar site. We've got oceanic biospheres, we've got beaches, we've got aeolian environments. But behind the dunes, you can see that the Whitings, we've got development. And the challenge of meeting development needs while meeting ecological needs and winning back some of the biodiversity losses we've had over the years really require us to use the best tools that are available to us. And that brings us to working with computational design from microecologies to architectural form.
Yeah, in our school, we are a team, myself, John and also Paula, who is not here today, and we are a team with different expertise. One of the main aims of our team is exactly understanding how computational technologies, namely algorithmic procedures, 3D modeling, prototyping, or very simply digital representation can help a better research in architecture, but also a better professional practice. Our investigation tries to mix and understand how by using procedural modeling, for instance, we can work in tandem with the environment, looking at biomaterial and also looking at architectural structure that because of that underpinning computational process can then decay and can be absorbed by the environment. We have been working broadly and locally in the UK, but also international. A few years ago, we have been also exploring the woodland in the Dolomite Mountains. And for instance, this is a project of a student who was investigating the green burial and therefore developing the envelope for the human body. This envelope is not the result of a deterministic computational procedures just aimed at creating a sort of new formalism. Rather, all the process was driven by the idea of a dissolving envelope that could work in tandem with the human body dissolution and also with the soil. We use different software packages, and of course we are also quite committed to understand the gap and to fill the gap between the digital modeling on the screen within a computational environment and then the fabrication. Over the past few years, we have been working a lot on the notion of porosity that could be extremely interesting for a new generation of materials, but also for a new set of architecture that live and then they decay and they can be completely dissolved. This is another project always developed with ANEMARC students. We work and teach in different programs. We are in the Dolomite, and here a very interesting metaphor was happening. The project is the result of simulating within a computational environment the ice melting. And the ice melting, which is a marker of climate change in the Dolomite, was also driving the architectural building.
So in working with these complex systems over time and space, we're forced to become cartographers. Now, we're not cartographers recording the present, we're also cartographers projecting the future. And that's common to all designers. We are drawing the maps that will be built that are the future. And in this, we use sites around the world. Of course, Portsmouth being an island city, we work a lot with Venice as well, which is a similar wetland city. But here we're working with one in Iceland where we're using standard mapping, but we're also using LiDAR. So we're on cutting edge there. And also Portsmouth is sandwiched between the ocean, the Ramsar site, but also the South Downs, one of the most important national parks in the entire country. And here we're using GIS to really drive into and study the nature of the environment so we can come forward with propositions that are appropriate to the place and that are poetic too. So we don't just sit doing the science of environmental work, we also get into the creativity side of it.
Great. As we said, we are also looking at the most recent computational model, and of course AI is playing a very important role. We like to say that in our school we investigate intelligence in design and not just only AI. However, we have been pioneering a lot of experiments with AI. This is a very interesting way to use AI. It's about understanding the Venice Lagoon rather than using AI as a generative tool. The AI here has been used to increase dramatically the understanding of the site in its scientific and also art and humanities component. Nevertheless, we are very conscious about that so-called generative power of the AI. This is another experiment 1 year ago, as students using AI as a sort of co-generative tool in order to understand variation in the sectionality of a building. We like to say that AI for us is a sort of asymptotic curve where the designer, either being an architect, a graphic designer, a musician, and the machine are converging. And we are approaching that model successfully in our education. However, everything goes to professional practice as well.
Yeah, we have to keep it real. And I think that's the big part about being in Portsmouth. We're working theoretically around the world, but we're working with real sites. As I mentioned, we're surrounded by a Ramsar site. We're trying to create buildings, cities, developments that respond to that environment and make a positive impact. So we demand biodiversity net gain from every project we do, but we also like working on those tricky edges, the edges that are going to be most impacted by future climatic change and future sea level change.
So going to synthesis, and we would like to finish with this other interesting composition of experiments developed from the Dolomite Mountains to the lagoon, again having Portsmouth as a twin of that. If you are keen to develop research, or if you are keen to learn, or if you are keen to work with professional practice, our school, Portsmouth School of Architecture, Art and Design, is there, and we are looking forward to seeing you.
So in summary, if we can just go back one, in summary, we've built a course here, we've built a department here that is really genuinely landscape led, but it's also drawing on the most important sciences. It's drawing on environmental practices, on geographies, and we're here to break down professional silos. We work with geographers, we work with artists, and we work with cities around the world, looking to look at reforestation, bioengineering of the oceans and bioengineering particularly of lagoons. And so you'll notice on the southern end of this is a section through the Piave River. So you'll notice on this we end in Venice. Now Venice is another island city that we have close relationships with and run studios there every few years. And that's really important to us, that we're not producing an urban designer, a landscape architect, an architect. We're creating people who can work across that spectrum, that will break through those professional silos. And in that way, allow us to really make those big plans we talked about at the beginning, big plans that are relevant to where the big problems are. So at the end, we want to thank you. Grazie, merci, gracias,
tack, danke, obrigado, obrigada.
So,
Thank you
thanks
so
for
much.
taking the time.
We are looking forward to meeting you in our school.